At the beginning of this week's vlog, I wanted to share with you the geraniums that are found around my home, as it is also going to be one of the first seeds that I'm going to be starting in today's video for the season ahead. This beloved flower and plant most of us have experienced at some point in our lives. I thought I would just show you how the annual becomes a perennial in my home and garden. Basically, this only happens because I bring the geraniums in their pots before the first frost, and then I take them back outdoors after the last frost because they are not frost tolerant, thus making them technically an annual where we live here in Zone 6A. Geraniums come in both beautiful leaves and flowers with a variety of shapes, sizes, and colors. And while I find that they don't flower as much indoors as they do outdoors, the beauty of the blooms when they happen indoors is always such a welcome treat. The oldest of my geraniums is the one that used to sit outdoors on my mom's front porch in her home in California, and I brought it home nearly 15 years ago, as I have shared in previous videos. While this plant has lived a great life, it's starting to show some signs of aging, so I'm keeping an extra close eye on it and making sure to keep it clear of leaves and branches that are dying and deadheading as necessary. So what do you say? Let's go ahead and head downstairs and start getting some new ones started. Hello my friends, and welcome back to this week's vlog where we are going to get our fingers finally in the dirt and start planting some seed. We've been talking about it over the last 2 weeks, but this week we're going to do it. So I've been starting to put together my little containers that are in a big plastic, because we're going to be watering these from the bottom once we get them planted, but we'll be filling these up with dirt. I've got this dirt that's over here that I have been mixing up with our wool pellets like we talked about. And so I have put the package recommends a half a cup of wool pellets to 1 gallon of soil. So I have one bag of soil in there, which is 6 quarts. So it's a little bit over. So I went ahead and put a little bit over of the wood pellets, and I used a little mortar to crush them up a bit and knock them down. I've heard somebody say you can put them in a blender. I just haven't been really wanting to put it into my blender. It just seems a little, I don't know, seems strange, but you know, whatever. Onward we go. So we're going to be filling these up, and then the seeds that we're going to plant today, kind of an interesting combination of seeds. But I got these geranium hybrids. They're Pinto Premium Lavender. I'll put a picture up here on the screen. It's kind of a light pinkish lavender, which they're really beautiful, from Park Seed. So I have those. I only have 10 of those. So I am, keeping my fingers crossed that they all germinate. We also have, let's get everything over here. We have artichoke. Now let's talk about artichoke for a minute. I wasn't going to do artichoke, but I decided at the very last minute to add it in, and I'll tell you why. Because we had artichokes for dinner the other night, actually, and it just inspired me to go, let's give it a shot again. I didn't do them last year, but the year before I did. And a number of years ago, when I first saw artichokes, I thought, I want to grow one. I want to get an artichoke plant. So I had there was a gentleman who had started a little nursery, and he was kind of a grouchy guy. And he had said to me, I said, do you have any artichokes? And he goes, why in the world would you want to grow an artichoke? They just take up a lot of room and they don't do much. And here in Colorado, it's true. We have a very short growing season for artichokes. And so I did go ahead and do it, and he was right. They took up a lot of room and they didn't really grow that much. But what I found is the year before last, I grew them from seed. And so they were much healthier, much stronger when I put them into the ground, into one of my raised beds. And while here in Colorado, I mean, ideally, what does it say on here? I think it's, zone 7 through 10 is where they really become perennials, and they will come back year after year. Here in Colorado, 6A, they're an annual, one time only. They are a bit frost tolerant, so I am going to grow them indoors. They take about 12 weeks to go. But my favorite part is not so much the fruit of the artichoke itself, while it's delicious. It just, you get about two or three, and the flower, because this is part of the thistle family, the flower of it is really what it's so beautiful. And that's what I really want to grow them for. And I'm doing a couple of new beds this year. So artichokes is going to happen. The other, and I've got a number of packets of this for the lavender, and this is the Munsted Lavender. And this also recommends that you seed this 10 to 12 weeks before the first frost. So we're right on this. This is the last few days of January right now as I am putting these into these trays. So I have quite a bit of these, so I'm going to do that. And then the last thing that I'm going to put in here for this initial run, let's just say, is these Gladstone onions. And so here's my thing with onions. I love growing onions for the flowers as well, but I want to do quite a bit this year because I want to get some for eating and some for flowers. The flower of onions are just so beautiful, and they are such a great, the pollinators love them. I mean, they just love them, the flowers that come from them. So these are 10 to 12 weeks as well. So let's go ahead and we will start filling up our trays. Now, what do I need once I get these trays filled up? There's a couple things that you will need. I've got my handy dandy little fan here, which packs a powerful punch. You want, when you're growing seeds, you do want to have some air filtration, or not filtration, but just the air movement in the room, because it's just like when it's outside, right? It just keeps the health of the plants. Not so much when they're germinating initially, because I'm going to have them under. Do I have any of my plastic? Yeah, let me. So everything is going to end up in these big plastic trays, right? And each one has a plastic lid for it that acts as a humidifier that goes on top. And that's, once we get these planted up, we'll put that in there. And then this is my initial bed that I always put them in, and then we'll move them down into the other beds and then over here to these trays over here. But I call this the nursery because I really like to start them there and then, transplant them and start moving them around from that initial spot. In this initial spot, I have a heating mat, and everything is on a timer because you want the light to work about 8 hours a day. So I have a little timer here. Some of this electronic stuff I let my husband do because he's much better at it than I am. And but I have a outlet that this will get plugged into the timer. And then because there's a number of lights that will go in this unit, and then again in this unit, once this gets hooked up, here in probably about 3 or 4 weeks, we won't be ready for that. They'll all be on timers, and especially once we get the tomatoes. When the tomatoes go in, I love the tomatoes. It's my favorite thing to grow from seed, I will tell you that. But we're not going to be ready for that till about the 1st of March. So I am heading out on a trip in a couple of weeks. So I want to get everything done. These will be self-watering through the bottom, not self-watering, but they will water through the bottom. You don't ever want to let your seeds dry out. When I've had failures with seeds, growing seeds indoors, it's because they got dried out and they don't like it. They don't like it at all. And so, yeah, you really want to do that. So my husband will be here to be watering and all that, but that's why I want to get these going. And then when I get back from my trip, I will be able to start the tomatoes and a bunch of other things that that I'll sow indoors. And as I've been talking about, there's other things that I will sow outdoors as we go. So let me go ahead and fill up all these trays. So here we are. And again, it's just, I really find this kind of therapeutic in many ways. And just get my gloves on here, of just filling these up. And you'll see in here, you can probably see in there the wool pellets. Again, this is all an experiment for me, and there's so many times that I experiment, and then I'm going to do the next batch with coco coir and try that to help with the, and what is that for? It's just to help with the absorbability and you know, the water retention, something to hold on for the water. Now you want to pack these in not too tight, because you want the, you know, it's one of those things, you want them tight but not too tight. And so I use my thumbs to kind of press it in, but again, not too much, because you want the soil to be able to move so that the seed can grow in it. I'll put the seeds in, then I'll put a little dirt on the top of it as we go. But if you look at this, so there's 6 containers, or 6 sections for each one of these, and I'll put a couple of seeds, except for the geraniums. I'm going to put the seeds singly in there because there's only 10 of them. Usually there's enough seeds that you can just pull some out and let them go, just because they're very delicate. Obviously they're babies and they're going to be delicate when you try to take them out. One of the great things about these containers is they have little holes in the bottom. At first, when I first saw them, I thought, well, great, but the dirt's going to fall out. Miraculously, it doesn't. And then it makes it easy for you to be able to pop them out so that we can, because one of the things that we'll do down the road here in the weeks ahead is that we will transplant these into bigger containers. Feeling pretty good about this. So let's go ahead and let me see here how I'm going to do this. I'm sitting on the floor, so makes this a little bit easier. All right, so let me go ahead. I'm going to do these geraniums first, and go ahead. I have some scissors here to cut this packet open with. You know, it is with seed packets, you kind of want to just move them over so that they don't fall out, especially when you only have this many. Look at these seeds too. These are super, super tiny. There they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I got an extra one in here. Hooray. All right, so I'm going to put them in over here, and I'm just going to put, I don't even know if you could see this because they're so small. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oops, that one didn't come. 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, so this took up almost 2 of these. So then I'm just going to take the dirt and sprinkle it over the top. Ooh, that was a bit much. You really want it pretty light. You don't want it too much. I'm going to take my gloves off. That's when sometimes gloves are just too much. So they're just too much. And just to get the seed so that it's covered, not very much, but just a little bit, enough to be able to get the nutrients from the soil and come out. That one I need a little bitty more soil. This one was quite a bit. All right, so just like that, our geraniums are planted. And then I want to take this marker and I will put, let's see, how am I going to do this? I'm going to call this geranium lavender. Geranium, Geranium lavender. on a permanent marker so that I'm going to mark it on one side, and on the back side I'm going to put what is the day's date? Is the 29th. So 129, so that I know when, because sometimes we get a little excited, right, about like, when did I even plant that? And I'm just going to stick that right in there and keep doing that for all of them. Okay, so we've got all the geraniums marked and in. Now we're going to work on the Gladstone onions. And I was just sitting here reading about, it says that this versatile onion will become your new standby for any recipe. That Gladstone is an intermediate day onion that produces 4 to 5 inches in diameter, clean and crisp white onions with a delicate sweet flavor. It's ideal for raw applications like salads, salsas, sandwiches, and stands up to cooking and pickling. Blah, 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 resistant to pink root. One of the things I love about Botanical Interests as a seed company is that they give you so much information. I mean, that's just on the back. There's all this information. This one, because I don't know why some seeds have more information than others, but this has like optimal growing conditions, the family that it's a part of, the onion itself, just a lot of really great information. So let's open up this packet. Again, I always like to knock my packets down so the seeds always go to one end. And I'm going to rip that open. And these are really little dudes. Let me just say, yeah, look at, I mean, one of the things I find fascinating about seeds is just, now there's a lot in here. Let me see what the packet says. The packet says, does it tell me how many? It says 300 milligrams. I don't know if it says how many seeds are in the package. Anyway, there's a lot. And let me hold this up here. There's so little. These are little guys. So that when seeds are this little, it's real. I mean, some people are really good about just perfectly placing seeds. I'm not so good at that, because the one thing that I look at is that you can, and sometimes the seeds germinate better when there's other seeds nearby. It usually will say that on the packet. It gives you planting instructions, but I am going to just put about 3 of these since I have them. And that way, if one germinates and one doesn't, we're in good shape. All right. This is really, you gotta have good eyesight for this. I gotta tell you that. All right, so I've got them into this one, and I will put them into this one here too. I'm gonna scoop these back a little bit. I don't know if you could, let me get this down a little so you can see this better. Yeah, you still can't see it. There we go. So I've got these filled. You can't even hardly see them because they're so little. And oops, 1, 2, 3. I love seeds. You know, when we first moved to this house and we had this extra acreage and I had a huge new garden to plot in, and I was going directly into the soil at that point. I didn't have raised beds like I do now, which later in the year I will, as we get closer to actual gardening season, I will share more of that with you. But one of the first things I direct sowed was radishes. And I just, because there were so many in the packet, like this, I mean, I've already got 12 of these cells filled. So that's 12 plants. So that's a lot of radish, or a lot of onions. But I think, I'm sitting here debating this out loud as I think about this. Should I just do them all? I think I'm going to do a bunch more. Yeah. But I did all these radishes, and oh my gosh, we had so many radishes. Craziest part of it all was we don't even like radishes. My husband's like, why did you grow all these radishes? I'm like, well, don't you like them? He's like, no, I don't like radishes. I didn't like them either. And then they ended up flowering and getting all over the place, because that's one thing you will find when things flower, they will spread in your garden. So I'm going to go ahead and watch for little things like there's a little stick that was in the dirt. So I'll throw that down over there. You just want to get that out of there. And you know, this is really it's a test of patience. All of gardening is. Did I put some in there? I can't remember now. I took my mind off of it. All right, so now I've got all 6, 6, 12, 24. So that's 24 that I've got of these onions. So I'm going to put those in there and get some dirt to just sprinkle on top. Oop. And now I'm finding with these wool pellets that they're not absorbed. I mean, they're not, they're just kind of clumpy. I guess that's the best word I will use for it. So where the coco coir, which we talked about in the last couple of videos, it does absorb better into the dirt, I find, but this is all an experiment with these wool pellets. And I know that this soil is seed starter soil, so it won't be a total loss if for some reason it doesn't come up. But all right, so I am going to just finish putting some topsoil on this. Again, just very lightly. These seeds are so small, you don't want to just get them too deep. And it will tell you how much to put over each one. Now, when I sow directly outside, it's a whole different story, let me tell you. So I'm gonna, just so I don't forget, I'm gonna put one here at the very back and one at the very front over here. So it just reminds me that all of these trays are now onions. So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make these all the lavender, and then I'll do the artichokes over here. Because one of the things too that I find that I can get a little too zealous, and then I don't have, you know, that I've got too many plants going. And I mean, I've done that with tomato plants where I've had, I mean, one year I had like 60 or 70 tomato plants. I was giving away a lot of tomato plants, that's for sure. So I'm trying to hold myself back. But when you have all these seeds, it's so easy to do. All right, so let me go ahead and change the camera here. All right, so now we've got the artichokes. We've got our onions all in, all marked, ready to go. And you know, these are plastic, and I do not like using plastic. However, I've tried different things in the past, and I'm looking for a solution. So if anybody's got a solution, let me know. But I've tried other things in the past, and they just don't hold up to the water that these are going to go through. And then the other piece of it is I used to just mark one of the 6, but then when I transplanted them, things got mixed up, and yeah, it just was kind of a problem. So for now, this is what I'm doing until I find another new solution for these. These are smaller ones, and yeah, I'm actually looking for maybe recycled or something. All right, so in the artichoke, they come in they've come in this packet, then with the smaller packet inside. Again, kind of move them down to the bottom. And God, I got black all over my fingers from the marker, permanent marker. All right, so these are a little bit bigger seeds. So let me show you these. There you go. These are the artichoke seeds. And how many of these do I have? I have, well, definitely enough for what I'm going to do, because I'll probably do, let's see, I have 1, 2, if I do 2 to a pack, again, or to a cell, just in case they help to germinate each other. I think that will give me enough. Let's see what I got here. I'm not great at math. Okay, I'm just going to say it out loud. You don't have to be great at math to be a good gardener. Just like you don't have to be a good scientist. You just have to have patience, belief, keep going. I think I'm going to put just one because there's not enough for all of these to have two. But when I can put two together, you know, it just seems like they germinate better when they have several together. But we're just going to do this. Okay. All right. So there we go. Those are in. And we are on our way to getting some artichokes. I do like that. Some of the times you could just push these in a little bit too, which I'm going to do with these, or put the dirt over it, whatever floats your boat, if you know what I'm saying. Let me pull this back down again. But there they are in here. I don't think I've ever done seeds this fast in containers. And again, I will continue. This is just my method, and I think we all find our own methods for what works. But I like to just get the babies going, and then once they're on their way and they're out of the nursery, then I will put some more in, but not for a few weeks because I don't want to get, you know, otherwise this room, just like I've shared before, gets so full of plants because they're ready to go out and it's too cold outside. All right, so now we have the artichokes in, and I will go ahead and make up those containers. I hope I have enough tags. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I might have to just do these because I'm gonna have to get some more containers. So I'm gonna do that and that, so I know those are there. And then next comes the lavender. Let me just go ahead while we're doing this, and I'll do the lavender seeds. Now these are kind of a test too, because these seeds are actually, they have to put on the seeds by law. The seeds have to say that year that they were created in, and these actually expired in 2022, or they were packed. It'll say on the very bottom, packed. I don't know if you can see that, packed by 2022. So this is the other reason that I like to do stuff like this too, because it helps me to see, are these seeds even going to be viable? Now look at how tiny the lavender seeds are. They are teeny tiny. Can you see that? There's kind of a, but yeah, let me spread them out a little bit. Teeny, teeny, teeny tiny. And I know I have some friends that actually use little, like, you can use toothpicks, get a wet toothpick and put them in there. But I'm going to, let me move my camera a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and put, it's as much as I can to separate them, but it's so hard because they're so little. And see how we do with it. And again, by doing it this early, if for some reason they don't germinate, that's it for one packet. That's crazy. It's always so interesting to me how many seeds come in a packet. But again, like with these, because they are as dark as the dirt, they don't show up very good, and they're so little. So it's a little challenging, to be sure. Did I put them in there? But again, if you get more than one that comes up, you can, once they get a little bigger, and as these grow, we'll talk about it more, and we'll walk through this whole process every week. I'm just really, like, I do this with my zinnias. I put a lot of seeds in just to make sure that they've got a lot. Because what else am I going to do with them? All right, there we go. I did put a lot in there. And that's it. We're going to just put some dirt on the top of these, and I will share with you, again, very lightly, because these are so small, how we're going to water them from the bottom, because again, you do not want to water these from the top, because it'll just be too much for them, because they're so little. But I think they will be fine. All right, here we go. Put more dirt All right, all I have to do is put the labels on and then we will get it over into the nursery. And one more thing I almost forgot. It's like the blanket before the little seed go into the nursery, as I like to think of it, and that is like the blanket that will keep them warmer and help keep the moisture in, and that's using something called vermiculite. I don't even know what vermiculite is. I'll have to remember that because I don't remember at this moment what it is. But it's just a fine, you get it in a bag from your garden center or wherever, but it's just a fine, I don't even know what you would call it, kind of a grainy substance, that kind of grainy substance. That doesn't sound very good, but it just helps to keep the moisture in and keep your little babies warm. So I almost forgot that. So many little things, but vermiculite, very thin layer of it. You don't want it, again, too much because you want their seedlings to be able to pop out. But there it is, the vermiculite. And that's, what is it? Vermiculite, that's what it is. And I'll put in the description, I'll do get a description of what vermiculite is. So you can look in the description and I will have that in there. All right, and with that, they are ready to go into the nursery. All right, so with the vermiculite now, they're ready to go. And Ed, if you want to come on over here, just to show the heat mat. I just want to get up close on the heat mat. So I'm going to put them there. And again, we've got this plastic container underneath just to give it a little closer up. So I'm going to slide those in there. All right. And then I'm going to just do a little spray of water, lightly spraying it just to give it a little bit of extra moisture, especially for the vermiculite, to moisten the vermiculite. And then we will take out one of the containers and, excuse me, just gonna put water into the bottom of the plastic container so they can absorb it from the bottom. We'll do that every day. We'll be checking on these. And then we will put our plastic lid over the top so that it will create humidity inside of it. And that is it. Down here we've got our timer set for 8 hours so that it will go from now until about 2 in the morning, and then it will go off. And then every night at 6 o'clock until 2, it'll go on and go off. The most important thing is just to remember to pay attention to them. When I have lost them in the past, as I said earlier, it's because I forgot about them, they dried out. You just really need to check on them every day just to see how they're doing, touch the soil, just you'll see, and play with them, and that's it. And the first group of babies are ready to go. All right, till next week, we'll just keep updating where we're at and how they're going and what else is going on around the garden, getting us ready for gardening season, because we've got February, March, April. And so we got 3 really good solid months to really prep for this. So there'll be lots of things I'll be sharing between now and then. Be sure to like, comment, let me know what resonated for you, what might be scary for you in doing this, or whatever you think in the comments. And I will see you next week. Take good care. Thanks for growing with us. And we will see you next time. And in the meantime, be sure to like, comment, let us know what really resonated for you in this video. And then, of course, be sure to subscribe at no cost to you and be updated when we have new videos up to play.